Okay, what's up? So, I guess it's absolutely necessary to make more comprehensible this COVID thing. Uh, so I've had several people write me about COVID, stating that COVID is real, uh, and that's the general like similarity between these messages that people want to make. So I thought we should talk about this for a second, just to get a better understanding, because it might be that I'm not clear enough to where it could be a few possibilities. It could be that I'm not clear enough to like get through the normal bias of like a person when they don't listen to what you're saying and they make an assumption about what you're saying and they draw a conclusion that you're not saying because they're not listening to what you are saying. It could be that I just am not being descriptive enough, or it could be that these are straw man arguments, where it's like there's not actually a point of like explanation and logic isn't the goal of it. The goal of the exchange would be to sow confusion, right? So let's just get it straight. So number one, I think the most important thing is the First Amendment. So regardless of what any person says, like there's a lot of people that have a lot of different opinions about COVID, and the reason that people are strongly adverse to any type of COVID compliance is because this is a world government initiative. It's obvious, now in terms of what, how that manifests in the things that a citizen is expected to do through their municipality is totally dependent on the municipality and their level of autonomy, their level of independence as a city or whatever. But the people that are dealing with it are stressed because this shit is super fucking weird. And so it manifests in all kinds of ways of people coming up with all kinds of ideas of what's going on with COVID, like in terms of conspiracy theories, right? That's the term that you would use. The most important thing that is far more important than any kind of COVID, anything related to COVID, is that Americans need to have the First Amendment and the ability to say what they think, even if it's abused in the sense that you have foreign entities like doing subversive media production to like foment anti-COVID-19 for the purpose of their counterpart attacking that, like targeting a group and then using it to further crackdown. The most important thing about this whole thing is the First Amendment, and for people to be able to freely dissent and express their displeasure and anger towards world government, which the general population at this time does not accept exists. Even though they're getting their underwear pulled over their head with a fucking mega wedgie, and they look fucking stupid as fuck, denying it. Your country is out of control, and you're run by fucking world government. They don't follow your laws, and they've thrown your laws in the trash can. They placate to them wherever it's convenient for their purposes of taking over more, and that's about it. So when it's convenient to cite constitutionality for some whatever, for their purpose, then they'll do it. Everywhere else is just fucking steamrolled, and even their placation is only temporary until they can wrestle it down. Now, I have never said that COVID-19 isn't real. What I've said is that this entire thing is a production, and it's as a production, it is fake. The reason why is because the government, both the government and the pseudo-government, which would be CDC, which is not actually government, it's private. So the CDC, which is the primary, that's a point of contact for the communicating COVID response, they already had programs set up and had turned their entire initiative, including their conferences that they're doing, the way that they're doing their macro reorganization and stuff got changed over to pandemic prior to COVID. So this started in the last 5 years, primarily. You have a bunch of military and pseudo government private conferences and shit and exercises on the last 5 years prior to COVID. The COVID virus, if you accept the mainstream message that COVID started in Wuhan province at 2 labs, potentially 1 of 2 labs, probably primarily 1 is the suspicion. That's fine, because COVID jumped from animal to human, and it had to be engineered to do that. Furthermore, the CDC was present. Not only was the CDC present at the Wuhan labs, the CDC built the motherfucking Wuhan labs. They wouldn't be around. They provided guidance and training for lab procedures for how to do this shit in the first place. So you have a lab that shouldn't even exist in Wuhan province that only exists because Westerners come in there and set it up. You have a virus that hasn't jumped to people like it has, and suddenly it becomes weaponized and fucking splits all over, goes all over the world and infects everybody. This is what's engineered about it. It's not that you're not getting sick and getting the fucking snivels or almost dying or whatever the fuck you're personally going through that you're like so fixated on in selfishness and worrying about yourself and like what do people think? Am I crazy? Like, I think it's real. Am I crazy? No, it's nothing like that. There are fucking people dying of all kinds of shit. Whatever agent they released is certainly having an effect on that. But this is an engineered thing. It's obvious that it's engineered because of the nature of what COVID would be and how it would jump from canine to human. It's obviously engineered. Well, there's no public narrative to just, I mean, I'm sure they'll fucking come up with something, but it's bullshit. They released the motherfucker. They built the labs that built the motherfucker, and then they released it. And it all coincided with the reposturing of the private government organizations that are in charge of COVID response. Furthermore, their procedures for like general surveillance is not necessary. Not only is it not necessary in terms of practicality and how you would handle this thing, it's overboard. Not only is it overboard, it completely skips over its entire point and function and impetus of being the way that it is in terms of the government response and the private response. Completely skips over any recognition whatsoever of your personal rights. And Dr. Fauci Fuckface originally said that people didn't have the right to, infect other people, and so the measures of control measures were going to be strict. And he cited the reason was because the right of people to be safe supersedes, your right to whatever, privacy and private property and being secure of your persons from being finagled by mask wearing regulation and shit like that. Well, he's wrong, and we have a long established legal history in the United States of how he's wrong, with completely analogous models of how an individual's sense of personal safety, which can't even be measured, by the way, so what? So you want COVID compliance with whatever measures they come out with, even though you don't know what the fuck's going on? Okay, fine. Well, there's no measurement of success. It's not like everybody puts on a mask and you're like, okay, now we're good, like we can measure. No, it's just an ever expanding compliance list of things that you have to do that just continuously expands and goes not only into the domain of wearing a mask, but goes into fucking economic control, goes into recommending. I mean, they had a country, I think it was Sweden, they had them euthanize their entire fucking mink population, which is their major fur export, because of the possibility of virus. Turns out none of them had the virus. Ended up being an error, but they got an illegal order, and their government issued a notice that the order was illegal after the fact. but private parties that were powerful, they essentially lobbied the citizenry by direct interface to get them to do that. So this is a economic, sociological, and governmental national security approach to this virus, which is obviously engineered in CDC labs. The CDC labs in Wuhan, they sent the CDC representatives out under the cover of budget cuts. So they did budget cuts for the CDC and pulled them out of Wuhan province. The nearest one was it was like 6 months before the release of the agent, of the bioagent. So like they're pulling CDC employees out of Wuhan so they can drop it on China and blame China. The CDC set the motherfucker up. They wouldn't have the fucking Wuhan without the CDC. They wouldn't have a fucking coronavirus jumping from a canine to a person without the CDC. This is what I mean by fake. It's not that you're not sick or whatever. Okay? I'm sure you fucking get sick. I'm sure people are getting sick and dying. You better get used to it, because if you're not willing to call your government and your population to account to address this thing in the severity that it deserves, then you're going to get walked all over. And I promise you that you're going to get a fucking another virus and then another one, at least. And they're going to be more lethal than this initial one. The purpose of them being more lethal is so that you're going to demand of your own population even stricter control measures. Guaranteed. So if you want to see that, then keep doing exactly what you're doing. If you want to accept the fact that like the United States has been turned on its fucking head, then it would help bring clarity to the situation, so that you can expand out and look at other things that need to be addressed here. All right, I gotta go. I love you guys.